today because this is a special day to me. Because we get to honor one of our elders by just having her here in our midst and just sitting at her feet. As I was talking to some of these young men up here, I said, that's how we soak up the knowledge of our elders, right? We sit at their feet. We said, what you have to tell us? Give us some knowledge, some wisdom so that we can further along our journey, right? So that's what we're doing today. This is the beginning of our first ever Black Playwright Festival here at SIUE. Thanks to my friend in historical studies and head of the Black Studies Department, Jessica Harris. She's like, listen, let me help you with this. Let's do a Black Playwright Festival. And part of that festival is a show called Gem of the Ocean that I know some of you all are coming to see, right, this weekend. It opens tonight. It runs through the weekend. And it is a phenomenal play that I want you all to see. It's performed by students and one of my alums. So you'll get to see them at the work that they've done over the last few weeks preparing this play. And why I wanted to do this event here is because one of the characters in the play, Aunt Esther, is 285 years old. I know, right? The play is set in 1904, so if you do the math, that means that she was born in 1619. What happened in 1619? Anybody know?
Yes.
What happened in 1619? So first slave ship.
First slaves.
First slave ship. So you do the math, Aunt Esther was part of that. So 285-year-old woman in this play. And she is the keeper of history, the keeper of knowledge. She is the griot. And so I thought, wow, what an amazing thing if we have one of our own local griots come and give us some of her knowledge, right? As a precursor to us getting into this play by August Wilson, all right? Who else coming to see that play this weekend? Awesome. If you don't know about it, it's Wednesday. It starts tonight through Saturday at 7:30 and Sunday at 2 o'clock right over there in Dunham Hall. Tickets are free for students, okay? And as part of this Black Playwright Festival, we have this happening today with Johnetta Haley. Friday after the show, Dr. Jessica Harris will be leading a post-show discussion right after the show. And then Saturday at 3 o'clock, we'll be watching a documentary about August Wilson so we can learn more about his work and what he contributed to the American theater. All right, so that's some of the events going around with this Black Playwright Festival. So I know we have a bunch of Haley Scholars in this room. Raise your hand if you're a Haley Scholar. So Miss Haley, Miss Haley.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So I'm not going to talk much more. I just want to do a little bit of an introduction about Mrs. Johnetta Haley before we let her give us some of her wonderful history and knowledge. Johnetta Randolph Haley, Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, emeritus professor and former administrator. She became part of the SIUE faculty in 1972 as an assistant professor in the Department of what? Who knows? Music. Yes. I'm as a theater artist, I have an affinity towards artists. And before joining the faculty, she was a vocal director and chairperson of Knifer Junior High School in Kirkwood as the music department for 18 years. She began her educational career as the vocal and general music teacher at East St. Louis Lincoln High School. Anybody any East St. Louis Lincoln High School graduates? Yes, a couple of them. Awesome. Cast people back there. Political leaders recognized Haley's capabilities. Missouri Governor Kit Bond appointed Haley to the Board of Curators at Lincoln University in Jefferson City, where she was elected board president in 1977. She served on the board for 10 years. She rose through the SIUE ranks to associate professor in 1978 and to full professor in 1984. She was named professor emeritus in 1993 by the SIUE Music Department upon her retirement. In 1994, shortly after her retirement, SIUE's Minority Scholarship Program was named the Johnetta Haley Scholars Academy in honor of her many contributions to the university and to the East St. Louis community. There's so much more about her life, and I don't want to read it because it's more interesting if she tells it. And if anybody was at commencement this past May, you know that her life story is rich. So let's let her share. Let's give a warm welcome to Mrs. Johnetta Haley.
Well, I want to thank Professor Bentley for inviting me. I spoke at the graduation, and evidently she was impressed. She wanted me to come and talk to you. I know her parents. When you're 94, you know a lot of people. I've crossed the paths of a lot of my club members are sitting here. 3 ladies, if they'll raise their hands. So we've been together 20 years. When I got ready to retire from SIU, one of them said to me, Johnetta, we're going to start an investment club. Would you be interested? I had no money, never invested in anything. And I said, yes, I'd be interested. So we started the Money Bee Investment Club. And we did make money. We saved $40 a month. It taught me something about investments. My parents didn't have money. They invested in education. So we never talked about stocks, bonds, anything like that. It was all about education. Strange as it may seem, my grandparents were college graduates. Yes, black people did go to college in the 1800s. They went to school at a Quaker college in Helena, Arkansas, Southland College. The Quakers had a number of educational institutions for freed slaves and people who had, maybe they hadn't even been slaves, maybe indentured servants or whatever, black. And there were black people who had money, who sent their kids to a private school. My grandmother's parents sent her to Southland College. She fell in love with her teacher. Yes, they did that too. And that story has been written, and I can tell you about that later, because that grandfather's name was C.C. Smith, and he was reared by the president of Quaker College, Southland College. His mother was an Indian. That's a long story. I'm just telling you part of it. And his father was a metalsmithsman who came from Africa, from northern Africa. Yes, there were trained people, slaves. Some of the women were violinists. I did research on that, and they were entertainers at the parties that people had, the Puritans and Pilgrims and whatever. These black slave women who were trained musicians entertained. My family is 5 generations, and they're all college people. My grandpa, you could not associate with C.C. Smith unless you had been to college. Now, I understand now why he did that, because he wanted all of us to just think about going to college. He wanted us to associate only with people who had been to college. Didn't want us to get associated with anything. You understand? I understand that now. I didn't understand it when I was growing up too much because I didn't get to know a lot of people. It was all about going to school. My mother, her name was Willie Smith, graduated from college in 1913. Lincoln Institute. My grandpa couldn't teach anymore because he fell in love with a student. That wouldn't have been too good. And so he became a railway postal clerk. That was a good job. And that time he was a tall black man. Kind of looked Indian, but tall, very black. They lived in Poplar Bluff, Missouri. Black people could not go to high school in Poplar Bluff. They started a school there. It's still there, Wheatley School. Many of my family taught at Wheatley School, but anyway, my mother taught at Wheatley after she went to Lincoln University. It's a university now, but it was Lincoln Institute then, and she graduated in 1930. I went to Lincoln University because my mother went there, and that's all I could hear about. When we were sitting on the floor like you are now, she was telling us about the good times they had in the dormitory. They had 2 dormitories at Lincoln. There were 3 buildings there. 1 for girls, 1 for boys. Yes, my mother finished in 1913. I finished Lincoln in 1945. Strange as it may seem, I became chairman of the board at Lincoln. The first woman in history in 116 years I became. And some of the men were very upset about that. That wouldn't happen today. They wouldn't get upset. But a couple of the men walked out of the meeting when that happened at the board meeting. And I was chairman for 5 terms. And went on to in administration. But that's just one thing, because my daughter finished college in 1970 at Fisk University. You know anything about Fisk University? Have you ever heard of Fisk University? I know in the black community you have. But anyway, I wanted to be sure that she learned about our culture. Not that I don't want to be in total culture, but I wanted her to know about black culture. So that was the reason I sent her to Fisk, because you would get it there, right? And then my grandson, he went to Lincoln University, and strange as it may seem if you have grandchildren, he was on the National Honor Roll. And then he went to Missouri State because he wanted to play ice hockey. And you know all the black boys said, we don't play ice hockey. Why do you want to play ice hockey? And then it costs so much money. It's terrible. But he wants to play. He's still into ice hockey. And I have a great-grandson who is 7 years old. And he wants to play ice hockey too. And it's okay. But the whole family is into education. C.C. Smith had 8 children. All 8 finish college. I didn't have a car. You all don't have to have a car to finish college. Don't. But we have family reunions every 2 years. And we're trying to keep that instilled in our family. Education is the key. If you don't have it, you won't ever fit into total society. That's what we want to do, right? Right? You didn't answer too much. I want you to fit in total society. You have to be educated. You have to be. And I think most of you know that. And you have to study. I used to study all night long. Had to. And especially if you're black, you have to be twice as good. And my white students, I say that they know what I mean. I can walk into any place in the world and fit in the black community. Did you know that? Any place. But can I walk into Ladue or Clayton, Harvard, Yale? I can because I'm educated. But if you're not educated, you're not going to fit in, right? You won't know what people are talking about. You won't. Because you haven't experienced. It has to do with experience. That's what it's all about, experience. If you don't get those experiences, you won't fit into our society. This is our country, our world. You have to do that. If you're a Haley Scholar, I'm glad to meet you because I haven't had a chance to meet you. But you have to be a good student. You have to be an honor student. The young lady who is your chairman, I knew her when she was in college. Y'all are laughing because I know everybody. I knew her, and she says I'm still treating her like she's still in college. But that's not true. But I do expect certain things from the Johnetta Haley Scholars. I do. I was an honor student. But I had to be. We laugh about it now because my mother didn't know whether we were special ed or what. She said, you better be on the honor roll. She did. And we were. We were. She said, you don't have anything to do but study. And that's true. You know, I didn't have to work, or anything. My father did not want us to work. I know why now. But I couldn't get any job but washing dishes or scrubbing floors or cleaning somebody's house that didn't look as good as mine many times. But those are the only jobs that were available when I was your age, I couldn't get a job waiting table or anything. I'm telling you about my experience as a college student. I wanted a job. My father was a minister. My mother is former elementary teacher, but I couldn't get a job because I was black. And so, I know some of you have to go to class. And so, in the summer, my sister and I would come downtown St. Louis looking for a job. I took a test, folks, to take a job to wash dishes. A test, a written test. So I go home and I tell my mother I took this test. She said, "What?" I took a test. And they called to tell her that I passed the test at McCroy's 10-cent store on 6th and St. Charles. Anybody know where that is in St. Louis? Downtown St. Louis. Washing glasses and silver behind the counter. You know, the counter in the 10-cent store. Anybody know the counter in the 10-cent store?
I don't think they know the 10-cent store.
What about the dollar store? That's it. That's it.
I want to get a photograph before these students have to go.
Oh, okay. All right.
Scholars, if you would just come
Quickly, it was not, the program is not over, but the Haley Scholars have to leave at 2, so come and get some of them, not all y'all. Some of you all.
Is this what you want?
Perfect.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you about issues of racism that you encounter.
Okay. I'm getting ready. I was getting ready for that. Come on, I want you close by. So anyway, I got this job washing glasses and silver, you know, behind the counter. They had good food there. Blacks couldn't eat there. Nope, I couldn't eat there. And when lunchtime came, they took me down in the basement, and there was a table down in the basement, and there was black people washing dishes, not the glasses and silver, washing the big dishes, because they had food, real good food, like a dining area. Anyway, I couldn't eat there, and they cleaned end of the table, and I could eat down in the basement. I was going to college at Lincoln. I'd come home, you know, at Christmas or something like that. And I worked there, and then one day, the manager, who hadn't even finished high school, said she wanted to see me in her office. And so I go in, and she said, she called me Johnny, and I hate that. You know, my name is Johnetta. My father's name was John. I'm Johnetta. Call me Johnny. She said, Johnny, we've been watching you. You're such a hard worker, and you never complain. You bend over those sinks, washing the silverware and the glasses, and you never complain. You're always on time. We're going to do something that we've never done before. We're going to make you a waitress for $20 a week. I was making $15 a week, so I was happy. I got a raise, $20 a week. Then I became the first black waitress at McCroy's 10-cent store in St. Louis, Missouri. I made history. But I couldn't eat there. I worked there anytime I came home from college. But I still couldn't eat there. Sometimes you'd see a black person eating that I knew they were black, but they didn't know they were black. And they would come to me and say, "Is she colored?" I said, "I don't know. I would never tell." Anyway, I was one of 4 black teachers that were put into the Kirkwood schools after the Supreme Court decision. I was working in a beautiful little community called Meacham Park. And that's a long story. I can't tell you that whole story, but when the Supreme Court decision was made, they would put 4 of us from Meacham Park into the Kirkwood schools. And I was a music teacher. And there was a math teacher, a physical ed teacher, and a home economics teacher. They don't even teach home ec anymore, but anyway, we were black. And September 1955, we integrated the Kirkwood schools. 1,500 parents signed a petition. They did not want us. We came anyway. I didn't have any black kids in my class. It was the choir. That was the group to be in, you know what I mean, in the junior high school. And so anyway, I had to go to the spring festival. They still have it. All St. Louis County music people. And my group had to sing and be judged. And you take that judge's remarks back to your district where you taught. So I went to Melville. Have you ever heard of Melville? Well, Melville wasn't necessarily a place for black people then. I don't know if it is now or not. But anyway, I was scared to death. My choir's gonna sing. My hands were cold as ice. They sang like they never sang before. And the judge came up, he was from Oklahoma, jumped up on the stage and he said, "I have never heard a junior high school choir like this." And I just, a sigh of relief. But anyway, the mothers had driven the choir to Melville because they didn't work in that community. And they didn't even speak to me. They didn't say, "Hi, Miss Haley," nothing. But when they heard the choir and they took the kids back home that day, they called their neighbors and friends and they told them what happened. That was my first year in Kirkwood. The next year, everybody wanted their kids in my classes. Everybody. There was another teacher, but they didn't want, she had a nervous breakdown almost, really. It was not good. The kids all wanted to be in Miss Haley's group. I was there for 18 years. I had wonderful experiences. The kids didn't go home and say, "My teacher is black." Kids don't care what color you are. Students don't either, most don't. But they want a good teacher, right? Yeah. A good anything. A good anything. If you're sweeping the floor, be the best floor sweeper. No, I'm telling. be the best. And that's what I tried to be. I'm not sure I was. But it was not easy. Many of the teachers did not speak to me that first few years. And I walked in the teacher's room several times and they stopped talking because they were talking about me. That's okay. I don't care. Words don't mean a thing to me. One student, I walked down the aisle, and a black kid, he was in the 8th grade, and he said, "Oh, nigger." And that doesn't bother me. I know it bothers you all. It doesn't bother me because I'm not a nigger. So I turned around to him and I said, "I'm married, young man. Call me Mrs. Nigger." That doesn't bother. I am not gonna. I had a very dear Jewish friend, and we lived together a year, and she would get so mad when kids call her kids dirty Jews and this kind of thing, and I had to counsel her all the time because that means nothing. Words don't mean anything, you know. She'd come running out, you know, somebody called her kids dirty Jews, something. My kids don't do that, never did, and I don't. You can call me any kind. That's your opinion, you know what I mean? So if you're going to get angry about that, but I see that young man now, his advertisements, Welch's. You see that Welch, they used to make baby carriages, but now I think they have refrigeration or something like that. But, you know, that's okay. But I think about it now, it's old nigger when he first by. I'm not an old nigger now either. I'm old, but I'm not a nigger. Still old, Miss Haley. But my life was not easy so far as discrimination was concerned. But my mother taught me to hold my head up high and act like I knew everything, but even though I didn't. You know what I mean by that? Hold your head up and just keep on going. When I was in a class of 500 in Peoria, Illinois, I was a musician. And I played many times for the Glee Club. I knew I was going to be in the choir, which was the in group at Peoria High School then. Only 5 blacks were in my class of 500. Think about it. I knew I was going to be in the choir because they had a big festival, and the music teacher asked me to teach Negro spirituals to the girls' glee club to be in the festival, citywide festival. I, a student at the high school, was chosen to do that, and I did it, practiced them, and okay. You go into the a cappella choir your senior year at Peoria High School, and the elite group of students were there in that group. I tried out just like everybody else. And when I got my program for senior year, I didn't make it. I know that it couldn't be true. It was true. I cried. That didn't help. Miss Jackson was my music teacher. She did not pick me to be in the a cappella choir, which meant that I had to take the Girls' Lead Club over again, which I had been the director of the black group in there. I had been the piano accompanist. Didn't choose me. No black had ever been in the a cappella choir at Peoria High School in 1939. My heart is still broken. October of that year, I wasn't hurt long. My father moved from Peoria in the middle of my senior year to East St. Louis. And the high school there didn't even have the classes that I was taking. But my heart was already broken because I had worked so hard in music. I was playing on the radio once a week with the church choir that I played for. But I wasn't chosen to be in the a cappella choir. And I came to East St. Louis, and right away I was put in the a cappella choir there at the black high school, and I was chosen to be in a professional group in the city. They recognized my voice and everything, but I didn't make it in the a cappella choir at Peoria High School. I went away to college, as all people in the C.C. Smith family do. I majored in music. I came back to be a teacher at Lincoln High School. My father was still in East St. Louis. He was there for 5 years, so he was still there. But my heart was still broken about the a cappella choir. So I went to the MENC convention, Music Educators National Conference, and it was in St. Louis at Kiel Auditorium. I'm putting you to sleep. Anyway, it's okay. And you go to workshops at these conferences to learn different things. I looked, and there was Miss Jackson, my high school music teacher, who was doing a workshop. So I went to the workshop. I wasn't angry with Miss Jackson. I don't know why. It's hard to make me angry anyway. But anyway, when the workshop was over, I went up, tell her who I was and everything. She recognized me right away, and she grabbed me and hugged me. She said, "Johnetta, I didn't have the nerve. I just couldn't do it." But 2 years later, she did. And a black person was in the choir. But I'm telling you these things because you're going to go through today. It's awful. I can't believe we're still going through a lot of stuff because we're black, or we're Jewish, or we're white. Different things. It's so silly, but it's still going on. And Miss Haley's 94, and I survived. And so can you. you can survive too. And that's just one or two experiences that I've had. I've had them all in my life. Even at the age I am now. But I try to do two things. Now, I don't do this anymore, kids, but my parents raised me to say the prayers at night. Did you all do that? Well, we did it, and I wanted to be a teacher. That's what I prayed every night. And a good girl. Now, I'm still working on the good girl. I wanted to be a good teacher. And I did that every night. I'm still working on it. You must have goals. You have to have goals. You just can't be around. You got to do that for yourself, not what someone else tells you to do. What you want to do. Now, I've done certain things in my life you won't want to do, maybe. I am a Christian. Have to work on that one. Some of us are Jewish, and some of us are Muslim. You know what I mean? It's a way of life. That's what that is. I'm an Alpha Kappa Alpha woman. Some of you know what that is, too. And it's a way of life. I devoted my life to service. That's what that is. You might not do that, but you've got to have some goals. I guess I always had that kind of thing. As a little girl, I was a Girl Scout. You know, I went to the YWCA. They have certain goals. You know what I mean? You got to have something to work for. You're in college now, and so you've got to have something. And I'm going to stop because I can talk all day and all night, but they want me to just talk a half an hour.
Well, I wanted to see if anybody had any questions for you.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Sure.
Anybody have any questions?
Yes. Here's some right here.
Miss Haley, what was your main inspiration that, like, throughout your life? And it can be yourself too, kind of work.
My main inspiration? I really think it was my mother. She read to us from Pilgrim's Progress. Have you ever heard about that book? Every night, we'd be sitting on the floor like you're sitting. It was 4 of us. And she would read a chapter a night. She saw that we went to the library once a week. We learned the classics. She felt that you weren't educated unless you learned the classics. That was in literature, in music, in art. You're supposed to know all of those things to be educated. Did you know that? Well, you are. She had this great big book, The World's Greatest Music. And I play from that book, you know. And my father had the Harvard Classics. And I think they still have that book. He had a set of it, and then my brother, he got a set. That's all of your classics. Now, I can be argued with. There are teachers that don't believe what I believe. I'm just telling you what I believe. And I think you can do that. Get those Harvard classics, read all of those books. Get the music, and you can hear it. Now, I didn't have that opportunity. You have. I have a smartphone and a smart TV. Yes, I'm on Facebook. That's right.
Does anybody have any other questions? Yes.
Here's one.
You gave a lot of great general advice. Do you have any specific advice for young females in college?
I just gave you some. First, you ought to be a lady and decide what you want to do and do it well. I don't know what you want to do. What do you want to do?
My end goal, I want to work for Google or Apple.
You're going to make a lot of money, huh? Do it. Find out what you have to do to get that done. Because you can do it. I didn't have that kind of opportunity. But I wanted to be a tech teacher. But what I'm saying, I didn't have that kind of opportunity. I wanted to work at night. When my little girl was little, I couldn't find a job at night. You don't plenty of jobs at night now. Or you can work at home on the computer. I wanted to work at night because her father worked at night. Couldn't do it. You can do it. I want to see you 5 years from now, so you can tell me that you've done it. Okay.
Another question?
Yes.
What's the most important advice you have for going through the entire college year? Like, what should I repeat in my head, or what should I ask myself going through college?
What was your question again, please?
Like, what's the most important advice you have going through college?
What did you say, Matt?
Most important advice for going through college?
What's important?
Most important advice.
Do you know what you want to do while you're here? Well, my advice is for you to do it and do it well. College is a wonderful experience, and you're going to experience a lot of things. Some that you will agree with, some that you won't, which is great, and I want you to get as many experiences as you can. That's the thing. And they have it here now. Go abroad and study. Do it. Don't say, I can't do it. I don't have the money to do it. Yes, you can. If you want to. I'm just saying, take all the experiences that you can get. If they're going to Cuba, I wish I could go to Cuba. I want to go. But anyway, do it. Don't sit back and say, oh, there go. You do it. Does that help you?
Yes, ma'am.
If you want some more help, come and see me. Call me up.
I have one more question, Miss Haley.
Okay.
Out of all your family traditions, what's the most important?
That family reunion. My cousin, she's also a college professor at University of Illinois, Chicago. She's my first cousin. She and I were talking together in the 1980s, and we decided we would get a family reunion together, and we started in 1989. And we do it every 2 years. That's very important. Try to do it. Family, I think, is very important.
I agree.
Okay.
Thank you, Miss Haley.
Any final questions? Anything else for Mrs. Haley? Mrs. Haley, did you have anything else that you wanted to share with us before we close out here?
No, I'm just happy that you asked me.
I'm happy that you said yes. This was very important for us, and let's give Mrs. Haley a round of applause.
Thank you.